gonna get going. The initial slides, per usual, are a short presentation to kind of like set the tone for you people to know me. Welcome, everyone. Yeah, thanks for investing the next 45 minutes with us. Hopefully, you find the conversation enticing to some extent. Uh, this is going to be our webinar for Snacktopia, which is kind of like our report on the category of snacks, the future of snacks, and how we are defining and redefining the rules of crave. So with that in mind, I'm gonna go super quickly through the usual slide. So that's me in the woods. And to those that have been in previous webinars, I have already introduced Anna, one of my cats, in previous webinars. So I thought I might as well introduce that silly white ball of fur cover that I love, which name is her name is Joko. She was getting jealous, so please, only kind messages appreciating her beauty are allowed. That being out of the way, some of you already know I like to start the conversation by sharing a few things that I'm into in this precise moment. So just so you can create a better mental image of who is the person that you are seeing on the screen. So if you have been keeping track, esports season is almost over. We're gonna have the League of Legends final in a couple of weeks, so sad noises for me. But the Chainsaw Man movie is out, and well, it's peak. It's absolute cinema chills and all the other memes. I can't say I recommend it to every single person in the world because it's a very niche, a very specific topic, and it's a little bit gory on the gory side, but it's animation wise, trope wise, and overarching narrative wise, it's a very well woven together story. So 10 out of 10. That's all I'm going to say about it for now. So if you don't know who La Rosalía is, do yourself a favor and listen to El Mal Querer and Motomami. And if you do know her, she just released the first single of her new album on Monday, I believe. And well, it is also big. It's called Berghain. It has a little bit of German in it. It has Spanish. It has English. It has Bjork in it. It has Eve Tumor in it. It's honestly one of the most challenging, interesting things I have listened in a while. So yeah, that's that. Then we have Mr. Soran. I don't want to get into the politics side of things, but disregarding on which side of the political spectrum each one of us is, what is about to go down in New York around his figure next week is a huge indicator of where the cultural forces will shift towards in the US in the years to come. So it's a very important cultural phenomenon, and he's a very important cultural phenomenon to some extent. So just keep an eye on there. And then finally, a webinar related one, caramel popcorn. I was not a believer. I harnessed doubts in my heart towards them. I always saw them as the pineapple pizza of the snacking world. But once you understand perfect per those two flavors make, revelation is kind of assured. So +1 for caramel and cheddar, by the way, and plus 10 points for Chicago's Garrett popcorn, which a very lovely partner here at CN introduced to me a year ago, I believe, and it changed my mind. So now that you all know me by my name and know a little bit about me, it is only fair to quickly acknowledge the fact that the main reason I'm here today is because I'm currently employed by an amazing, not a holding company, but a culture-powered network named Culture Plus. I'm currently their vice president of strategic solutions, which means that for anything consumer, cultural, reality, insight related, you'll have to go through me. But most importantly, we, as a not a holding company, but a culture-powered network, have never been as prepared as we are right now to properly support and execute what we call cultural intelligence. We have transformation and innovation, as well as data analysis with Human Plus, We have cultural discovery and insight, as well as forecasting with My Beloved Culture Forward and the Idea Atelier in the territory of cultural trends. We provide creative and brand innovation solutions with Cien Plus and Cien Health. We've grown, we've created a lot of new services, and we're happy to serve. So there you have it. Let's move on. Are we ready? So I guess we are. So good. Let's go. We live in a world where every bite is expected to tell a story. So, with that statement, I want to say that snacking has been evolving beyond mere sustenance on a long day with no lunch, or even that little craving that we get in between different moments of the day. It's become eventually a reflection of culture, identity, and innovation. So the Snacktopia is a realm where flavor meets function, where tradition intertwines with trends, and there is no limit to munching just your own imagination. Then again, this statement tends to be hyperbolic, and that's the idea. It's kind of to set the tone in terms of what we're going to be seeing in the webinar, which specifically speaking, I'm gonna be walking you guys through these three specific chapters. First of all, we're gonna see a little bit of the context, which is gonna set us up to understand better what the business opportunity is in terms of numbers, and which are the different cohorts and segments that are driving that particular business opportunity and why. Then we're going to see the trends, the metabytes, what's going to be meta in the upcoming years within the snacking category. And then finally, we're going to draw some conclusions where we are going to be able to quickly but effectively start dreaming what the snacking category will look like in the upcoming decade, and how to be ready to start establishing that type of conversations with our potential consumers. I'm guessing that most of the people that is here today either belongs within the CPG category, or you guys are directly within the snack industry, or maybe the fizzy drinks industry. But I truly believe that some of these conclusions, though specific to the category, can and should be understood as well as macro trends that are ultimately and certainly affecting the totality of consumer behavior, expectations, and how ultimately the consumer relates to food in general. So yeah, let's dive right in. So, understanding the context, right? With that in mind, I'm going to start with a couple of very big numbers, which are to understand a little bit better and set the tone where the category is out at and where it's supposed to be going. So, in terms of the market, what we first have is that the global snack market size in 2025 it's expected to reach 265.58 billion USD. That's dollars. That's a lot of zeros on the right side of the equation. Then we have that the projected CAGR of the category from 2025 is expected to be 6.4% of that. So that means that we're going to have a very huge amount of incremental value and purchasing power and money being driven into a category animal growth. So with that, what we can see is that there is a huge opportunity happening. There is a huge number to pursue, and there is a huge reason from a financial standpoint to invest within the category and invest particularly in this feature. Just in case your financial departments are wondering, why are you trying to innovate with that new particular snack that you're trying to launch? Well, this is part of the reason. Then we have sales in the US during 2024, which they reach 135 plus billion, which then again speaks to the size and the potential of the category in itself. And speaking specifically of salty snacks revenue in 2024, they comprise 31.1 billion within that year, which presented a 6.9% growth in comparison to the previous year, 2023. So those are just some numbers in terms of the size of the category and the size of the opportunity in terms of just spending powers and kind of like how the profitability and revenue is behaving, right? But who's driving the growth behind those numbers? So that's actually the very interesting question, because in here is where my expertise shines the most. And the first culprits of this potential and this already very substantial growth within the category is what we like to call now as the omnicultural majority, which is this 200% new mainstream, multicultural, inessential, but mainstream and pretty much general market driven cohort. They are driving not only 100% of the population growth with one, they are also bringing 5 trillion of combined purchasing power. So a big chunk of that part you can consider it's going to be going into food, and a smaller chunk of that 5 trillion purchasing power is going to be going into the snacks category. What we know for sure is the future will be omnicultural, and if we are not deliberately and openly and overtly targeting these audiences, we are definitely sacrificing, for at least in the upcoming decade or a little bit more, the 50% of the population. So it's just food for thought. This means that the division within races and ethnicities often placed as minorities will become the common cultural threat within the context of this new mainstream. Flavor, authenticity, and culturally inspired ingredients have an edge. So that's kind of like one of the crucial elements that we're going to be seeing transversally across the future of snacking. And it is because of this demographic shift, there is going to be a different approach and a different set or array of needs towards the idea of the flavors that we are going to be producing within the snack category, because it's a category that serves a specific kind of like service in that aspect, where you are just producing a packaged experience that you can carry all around. And if it also conveys cultural meaning through flavor, it's a very interesting way to interact with this set of audiences. So some of the key aspects that the omnicultural majority also shared, aside from flavor, what we have is that they are consuming in a diversity of occasions as well. So they are high growth segments that bring a lot of occasions to the table, over indexing in shareability, on the go, cultural celebrations, and family gatherings. So that also brings volume, because it's no longer the individual consumer or the special occasion consumer. Like they are actually actively and yeah, frequently looking for snacking solutions that can serve the many more than the individual. Then we have cultural relevance first. They prefer snacks tied to authentic culture, bold flavors, and community traditions, as I was mentioning. And then they have a very specific, and this may be a little bit skewed because a big percentage, well, multicultural audiences tend to like it, but a big percentage of it is Asian and Hispanic that also have a soft spot for a very spicy flavors. So the whole omnicultural majority over indexes on spice. So from habaneros to cayenne to the different profiles of spice, highly appreciated. So our next audience is the Gen Z, which are the flavor remixers and the TikTok snackers. And by the way, they are not exclusive. It's not like, oh, Gen Z is not omnicultural. Well, Gen Z is essentially omnicultural, on the contrary. But we are trying to kind of like align into the commonalities within the segment that we are describing, not so much about just kind of like, oh yeah, how much they are overlapping from an statistical perspective is more kind of like a psychographic approach to the question of who's driving growth. So Gen Zers, yes. For the Gen Z, it's all about making the experience either worth their time and money, or part of their identity and personal brand, or easily turned into content. These people that I try so hard to be part of, even though I'm old enough, so I cannot essentially. They really are immersed into the attention economy. And the way that they approach pretty much everything is through the lens of the attention economy. So ultimately, when you're trying to compete for their word of mouth, for their awareness, for their reach, for their consideration, what you are competing with is not simply other products within your category, that as well, but you're technically and pretty much competing with every other outlet of content or interest that they have, right? Like for them, the mere act of eating something while they are in transit in between their university or their place of work to through their houses is not only a functional act or practice of eating something and yeah, satisfying hunger, but it's also an expression of their personal brand. It's also a way of consuming content. What do you say in your package? What's the presentation that you are showing, and what's your presence in social media telling about you that they are going to be engaged with, right? Um, they are very prone to treat culture and with the kind of like work and jobs crisis that we are currently and particularly Gen Z are facing at starting level jobs. Their financial aspect is going to be a little bit harsher. So that means that treat culture and particularly a small treat culture is going to be crucial for them. But we live in a capitalist society, so that means that consumption finds its way, and then snacking has a great opportunity for them to have those little moments of experience where they can definitely enjoy themselves and enjoy the fruits of their labor and enjoy just a simple moment with something that's delicious. And then finally, it's also an aesthetic decision for them to snack. So I don't know if you're familiar with the meme of they served, they ate, and they devoured, which is pretty much just standing the fact that your fit is fire. So uh, the snack needs to look good as them. So think about that when you're producing, from the packages to the presentation to the ways of consumption. If you can innovate in that aspect, well, the Gen Zers are going to be very interested on you. They're high frequency consumers, so 73% of them snack 2 to 3 times per day. They are kind of like organic influencers, so instant shareability is something that they're looking for, and if your brand is aligned with their aesthetics, they will find a way to let other people know without you even asking for it. And they buy into brands that they feel identified by, but not necessarily at a personal level, but more at a superficial, shallow, more aesthetic level. That leads us then to the millennial hustler, which is our third audience. For millennials, we have that they view the world through the principles and values that they share. As a millennial, I am a millennial, sadly, can say that that's true. It's like the way that we build the world is upon the values and the things that we believe in. And that makes us very prone to brands that stand for something, which makes sense. It's good. It's not necessarily functional, but it has a yeah, certain value to it. Well, they fight to break through the economic, well, we fight to break through the economic landscape and set ourselves for future financial and social stability. We expect brands that we consume to either contribute to our grind or positively impact the world. So maybe the future will be a better place for everyone to live in. So with that in mind, we millennials are looking for things that, or snacks, or types of food, or refreshments that will help us be the best version of ourselves. So 77% integrate the snacks into their health routines, looking to achieve fully conscious eating habits that positively impact our day-to-day life. And that goes from nootropics into more healthy solutions for energy, mood changers, and that kind of stuff. Snacking is about all function, less indulgence, so prioritizing high protein, functional, gut friendly believe it or not, but we, the people in our 30s and 40s, are starting to suffer from everything digestive. So, well, if we can get away with having something delicious that's also good for our colon or our digestive system, 10 out of 10. Um, and finally, if you can abide, if your product abides to a particular cause, if millennials are seeking for clean, ethically sourced ingredients and brand values, so whatever aligns with our worldview works as well, and it's gonna catch our attention. With that being said, I'm going to jump into our last high growth and potential segment within the category of snacks, which are our amazing boomers, the longevity snackers. So the longevity snackers still hold, our boomers still hold around 70% of the disposable income in the US. So that's a lot of money. Let's start by that. See, boomers are transitioning out of the workforce and into retirement. Most of them are already reaching that age, where they are becoming more interested in improving their health, eat consciously, enjoy and experiment the peak of their lives, as financial issues and the hustle are now secondary. We also know that through medical advancements in the past couple of decades and centuries, we are extending not only our life expectancy, but also the quality of it. So yes, pretty much now peak of our lives is going to be around the 60s, where we're going to have all the material means to live however we would love to live, but also the health and the body is still ready to pretty much experience the world with all the time in it, you know? So it's an audience often forgotten, not only by this category, but pretty much every category that's not kind of like traditional luxury or cars or or kind of like, I don't know, yaks and that type of traveling through the Pacific and the Atlantic, I guess. But we probably judge antique ivory buckles for the next price. Kind of like they really need to be addressed. They really have the financial and economic power to make a difference. And snacking, it's a great delivery system for many of the needs that they have in order to preserve the health that they want to have for the upcoming decades. So that's cool. They want to be healthier with every bite, and sharing is caring. Though they most of them already have kind of like empty nest, hosting kind of like family events and meeting with their kids and with their grandkids. It's kind of like part of their schedule now. It's part of the work that they do since they don't have kind of like a traditional one. They love to join the family and support their kids in kind of like tutoring their grandchildren and that kind of stuff. So they are kind of like in that sense and in an in between where they are not only purchasing snacks for themselves, but they are also purchasing snacks for the rest of the family, which brings volume per usual. With that in mind, I know that in this type of format, there is not much room from direct questions during the webinar. I hope you are finding this enticing so far. So we're going to go into the more trends aspect of the presentation, kind of like what we are seeing as signals and what are the super trends that are defining the future of snacking. So the first one, we are talking about snack hackers, and in this case, kind of like the provocation or the idea behind it is that the snack of the beyond, the snack of the future, the snack of tomorrow, is metabolism ready. So snacks are getting smarter. Like if you think about it, a couple of decades back, we were restrained to a certain type of either corn or wheat or kind of like very traditionally made snacks or potatoes, right? Potato chips, tortilla chips, all that kind of stuff, even popcorn, yes. Um, and they are not particularly good for the metabolism to some extent. Like carbohydrates are difficult to metabolize, and they don't necessarily fit into every single type of diet. And then there's gluten. There are a lot of different factors that impact the way that we eat. But as you might have heard as well, there has been a rise on a very specific prescription medication, which is called the GLP-1s. You may know them by Ozempic, Wegovy, and other competitors. Um, and the introduction of GLP-1s into the category of weight loss and kind of like metabolic health is shifting, has permitted us to shift the perspective not only through dieting, but to deepen our understanding of how food and the things that we eat interact with the ways in which we synthesize and create energy and kind of like make our bodies function properly. So snacks, being the category that they are, they have always served kind of like this very specific purpose in between meals, in which it has been shifting from year to year, and it started kind of like this complementary meal, like you have to be nutritious and you have to have this and that and be sure that you're kind of like even meal replacements, right? But now and before this, sorry, we had a more indulgence-driven category, kind of like full flavorful, greasy, delicious richness of product that is not so much about anymore the fulfillment of or of a meal replacement, but it's kind of like this very fun, very experience-driven type of consumption, right? Right now, we are shifting towards something even more complex. So when we mean that the snacks are getting smarter, we understand that from GLP-1 friendly bites to nootropics, which are pretty much uh, cognitive process enhancers to some extent, we are entering the age of edible biooptimization and functional enhancement. Why is this relevant for snacks and maybe not so much for the rest of the dietary decisions that we made? Is because they are a great vehicle of delivery. Small packages, small amounts of product that you can pretty much carry with you and be eating all during the day makes of snacks a great delivery system for the different things that the new humanity or the post-humanity era, if you may call it, is looking for. So consumers across multiple generations are starting to see food not only as a source of resources, but as a way to improve themselves, support functional dietary decisions, and even pursue mental health. Snacks present a great delivery system for safe effects. Small sites, portable bites are easy to carry with you everywhere on any occasion and situation. So some of the things that are leading this revolution is kind of like the rise of semi-glutides. I already mentioned Ozempic, Wegovy, and how they are reshaping appetite, and also kind of like they are creating an expectation for products to have lower, low carbs and high protein kind of like approach to their production and their ingredients. So that's also helping kind of like push the narrative that we need to stack smarter. We have the vision of limitless functional ingredients, adaptogens, MCTs, fiber. It's kind of like turning this constant eating into a way to enhance our different bodily processes in order to bioprogram our own self. And beyond hunger satisfaction, we are also is kind of like going to the gym. Like you eat in the same way that you train. You are turning your body into something that's desirable for yourself and for your way of living. Then we have kind of like how we have a couple of numbers behind these biosignals, let's say. So the snack market, and particularly the global nootropic and adaptogenic part of the snack market, is projected to grow 9.2% through 2030 each year, while functional food market is expected to hit 350 billion by 2025. So there is money in there as well. Maybe not as much as the general category, but then again, are you interested in those billions? Well, if you are, maybe it's time to start considering innovating towards this side. Some of the consumer drivers, so 70% of US snackers want snacks that do more than satisfy hunger. Um wearables and kind of like how they are penetrating the market are making sure that people keep track of their biometrics. So people are starting to get very knowledgeable about how food and eating affects their body on a daily basis, and that kind of like contracts the logic of indulgence to some extent and moves the categories towards a smarter kind of like perspective. Personalized wellness is on the rise. Immune and gut health is on the rise as well, and ultimately, clean energy as well. Like I'm a big Red Bull fan, and my significant other hates that I do that, and she will definitely be on board with that particular trend of snacks that shift the need for caffeine and taurine and all these very traditional ways sources of energy to some extent into more protein, tannins, B12 kind of like driven products that have a lesser impact on the liver, particularly. So, yeah, pretty much we're hacking our body and we are shifting the way that we eat to pretty much turn our bodies into these very perfectly oiled machines that work like clockwork. So, that's trend number one. Trend number two, and now that I see when I made this slide, I didn't thought about readability much. Apparently, I was having kind of like a very yeah Victorian moment. So flavor passport, right? It's this idea that you now through a snacking can do tourism from the bowl in front of your couch. So snacks are becoming kind of like this taste of the world type of experience. And the time where cultural flavors were either geographically or traditionally restrained is technically over. Flavors are like passports, like consumers are crossing borders from the comfort of their houses, combining cultures, and unlocking new flavor frontiers with every bite. While still traditional foods and flavors are still sources of pride, flavor exploration has become a daily habit through which different consumers turn snacking into a shareable experiment and even a form of entertainment. So we have kind of like this idea of packaged cosmopolitanism, where even the more luxurious part of the snacking category is investing into having this special editions or limited editions that explore different parts of the world, different flavors of the world, but not only different parts of the world, but kind of like different levels of that experience, right? Like it's not the same to have, let's say, I'm from Colombia, and I have always claimed that lemon potato chips are very traditional from Colombia. Like I'm pretty sure they exist somewhere else, but it it breaks my mind how obsessed we are with that type of potato chip. But is it the same to sell lemon inspired potato chip as kind of like a Colombian thing? As, for instance, selling an ajiaco inspired or a more sophisticated type of flavor that will give you a deeper perspective of what culture looks like in a place like Colombia, right? Simply by buying a small package that you can carry and kind of like carry with you a small, yeah, test of the taste of the word. So that's a very interesting way that has enhanced our combined organic interest in multiculturality, and ultimately is it slowly but surely becoming part of our identity as well. So there is kind of like this thrill of the hunt as well, like, oh, did you try the new whatever's that tastes like this other very specific ingredient and that it's super hip right now? Well, that's that. We are no longer looking at exotism as the main source for this. So many of the narratives that tended to categorize cultural nuances as exotic, like, oh, it's this very specific flavor that you only find in the Philippines, right? Um, have conceded a space for a reconstruction of that identity based on appreciation rather than discrimination. It's not like, oh, that very exotic thing that it's only done in the Philippines. Is how do we incorporate that into a more fluid sense of culture where it doesn't feel like tokenism, but it's more kind of like honoring the flavoring tradition of those places. So that's interesting as well. The global food flavors market size is projected to grow from 16 billion in 2025 to 23.5 billion by 2032. That's also supposed to exhibit a CAGR of 5% during the forecast. So that's very rampant, very consistent growth from that part of the category. Some of the drivers is 73% of Gen Z consumers say they are interested in trying snack with global flavors. General population often consider exploring new ingredients to enrich their experience of daily eating. And then snacks, then again, it's a great vehicle for that. You don't need to kind of like restaurant hop every single day of your life, more so in this economy. So having the possibility of flavor hop through different snacks, it's actually a great solution. High growth cultural markets, Hispanic, Black, Asian youth drive flavor discovery as well, and flavor kind of like uh, awareness to some extent and hype. Like, you know how I'm a big fan of Hispanicity and how we have become kind of like this mainstream super power. Well, food works in that way as well. Like there is something that it's always cooking and that's it's always about to become mainstream. Cultural assimilation, TikTok fueling demand for global snacking rituals. Remember, though, that day that TikTok ceased to exist and pretty much the entirety of America went into the Chinese TikTok, right? To Red Note. Well, that happens more often than we think, not necessarily by changing apps, but by changing cultures. The meta of the different content creators and the different metas that content creation have ultimately put the eyes into certain places of the world for moments, and then you have kind of like this very quick window of desirability for certain type of flavors, and brands need to be aware of that and need to be able to react to some extent. Flavor passport, that was that. The next trend that we have is ID snackers, and I'm pretty sure that you are all aware of this very interesting catchphrase within the category, which is "You are what you eat." And yeah, that's still true, first of all. But second of all, it has acquired different depths of meaning aside from what we already know that it means. So snacking is becoming a personal staple. That idea of identity has fluctuated so much that the traditional markers through which it was constituted have been breached by consumerism, non-traditional aesthetics, and ideological leaning, among others. This complex entanglement has opened the path for daily consumption products or even consumption habits to become part of what makes everyone unique. This necessarily implies a change of logic for consumer goods, no longer in the pursuit of general narrative capable of resonating with everyone. They are requested to take a clear stance on how they will interact with everyone's personal brand. So there is a shift in there, right? It's not like, oh, how do I become the most generic brand and product to kind of like appeal to the masses? It's more about how my brand is capable of effectively and efficiently interacting with as many individualities as possible. And that's mainly driven through Gen Z and potentially Gen Alpha eventually, which are gonna grow steadily and directly within this logic. And we forecast that it's going to be one of those trends that it's gonna stay for a while. So what's driving this? We have personal branding, as I was mentioning in the Gen Z chapter. They grew seeing their own identity become a bargain chip in the social media universe and eventually became a structural dimension of capitalization. Not having a personal brand is to some extent not being part of the conversation, not being considered, and refusing to belong in the contemporary means of production. Chaos branding. I don't know how familiar you are with it, but there's this trend that brands are kind of like mixing their packaging and their communications to resemble that of another category in order to break through the noise. So in the era of TikTokification and chorisms, brands are having to adapt at the speed of culture to remain relevant within the never-ending stream of trends. Content and reduced attention span kind of like cause this. So this phenomena has broken category codes everywhere at the service of relevance, but it has also created a space for marketing teams to playfully turn their brands into identity accessories that adapt to every consumer specifically. So It's not so much about turning your brand or your product kind of like a collage of everything that happens daily, because that's just freaking impossible. But it's having a brand, a service, and a product that has the adaptability to playfully join those conversations in a way that's relevant and that enable our brands and products to accessorize with that. Yeah, like if we are going through we're gonna be going, for instance, in 2026 with World Cup, we're gonna be going through a very hardcore bloke core era. Everyone is gonna be wearing jerseys and football jerseys, soccer jerseys, sorry, and their national teams jerseys, and everything is going to be football. How can our snacks and how can our products accessorize with that? That's kind of like the question. How can we help build those identities through that? And we still have a couple of months to think about it. So let's do that. Size of the opportunity: 62% of millennials and Gen Z say snacking is a form of entertainment. 52% are willing to try a snack that has been endorsed by a personality that resonates with their identity. So that's a huge number for two of the, not the biggest, but the almost becoming the mainstream generations within the consumer universe. Some drivers, affordable affluence is driving sales of exclusive drops within CPGs that reinforce social identity and herd behavior. We have then again little treat culture, nostalgia-based identity as well. There are brands like Doritos that have responded with limited edition flavors such as tangy tamarind, kind of like reflecting cuisines from different ancestries, but also bringing back products in time. That if any of you has entered the social media of any of your snacks in the world, you will see that probably the number one comment in every single post, no matter what the post is about, is please bring back X flavor. Nostalgia. Then again, we live in the past and in the future at the same time. This is trend number three. And for trend number four, we have plant crafting, which is an ingredient based revolution. In here, what we have is that the veggies are the new cool, while greens and veggies used to be frowned upon within the snacking category, particularly when we were going through the indulgence era and kind of like the small treat and kind of like the uh, yeah, craving, very strong craving, flavorful driven kind of like meta for snacking. Now we have an ingredient revolution that intends to make the snacking not only healthy but sustainable, and it responds directly to the more conscious needs of the contemporary consumer. We have flexitarianism, dietary restrictions, animal protein avoidance, and other consumer behavioral trends are opening a new dimension for the snack category, not only to explore, but to incentivize in the name of healthier and greener future. So we have a planet in need. Well, 2 in 3 I'll say plant-based foods are better for me and the planet. The overall population has also engaged on the idea that environmental impact is worsening humanity's chance of survival in the long run. So this has triggered higher awareness of the impact consumption has on the planet, but particularly the active pursuit of less damaging consumer behaviors. We have the destigmatization of greens, mushrooms, seaweed, algae, jackfruit are not only going mainstream, they are becoming highly desired by a plethora of segments. This trend is in which greens, veggies, and fruits are reverse engineering their way back into consumer tops of mind, has redefined the way in which they are consumed. The achievable flavor profiles and the consumption occasions. So say goodbye to salads and then again say hello to snacking. We have some numbers back in that. So we have that global plant-based snacks market is projected to reach 94.3 billion by 2034, with an average CAGR of 8.7 in that period. Consumer drivers, flexitarian lifestyles: 42% of consumers say they are reducing meat intake. And by meat intake, it refers also to many different sources of animal protein, oils, and many other things that are used in the production of traditional snacks. So that's that to consider as well. Environmental impact: 2 out of 3 Gen Z shoppers say sustainability influences snack choice, and they are going to be the next generation. So let's keep kind of like an eye on that. And then finally, dietary restrictions. We millennials are starting to reach the onset of our metabolic health. So rising lactose intolerance, preferences for cleaner ingredients, easier to digest the stuff, as I already mentioned. It's crucial, and many grains have those properties naturally. So having them in this very easy to deliver system, it's also great. So those were our trends. I know we are a little bit on top, like a minute. I'm gonna go very quickly through the provocations, which is how we envision you guys becoming part of the snacking revolution. And hopefully, if you want us to collaborate and help you with it, well, we are super open to do so. We have the fact that we need to understand snacking as multidimensional. Like snacking is now health tech, is cultural expression, is an identity marker, is entertainment. It's all of these things, and the format of snacking turns it into an effective delivery system for both functional and emotional narrative. The future will keep pushing this narrative beyond and marking the end of the generic indulgence snack. So keep that in mind. GLP-1s and the future development. So GLP-1 friendly products have created a new category of precision snacks, but this is only the beginning. Future pharmaceutical developments may revolutionize the way in which consumers perceive responsibility, consequences, and indulgence. So snacking is a transitional food capable of both function and indulgence will play a key role in certain scenarios. We have TikTok is a R&D engine. So yeah, it's pretty much the new source of research and development. So while social media has long entangled itself with desire and consumption, TikTok is becoming the dominant force in trend development. And not only TikTok, to be honest, like every algorithmic kind of like content creation based platform, it's playing that role as well at different generational levels. So soon flavor will jump from viral videos into innovation and development, and the future is designed for brands ready to react at the speed of culture. Then we have new category aisles, while the current meta of the category is mostly divided between formats, ingredients, and packaging. The future of the category seems to be leaning towards a function benefit driven categorization. So this change will further push traditional snacks into redefining their value proposition to compete with adaptogens, nootropics, and other forms of functional and beneficial treats. So start thinking, what is it that your snack provides to the consumer beyond just the fact of a great snacking experience? We have transgeographical material experience, in which what we are thinking about is more that snacks will become gateways for other words. Flavor seekers will embark on the task of experiencing the most unique combinations and experimentations that create new authentic heritages. So that's pretty much it for today. I went just 4 minutes on top of the 45-minute mark. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. It has been a pleasure, per usual, for me to kind of like run through this. I'm super passionate about this type of topics. And I think that while nothing is particularly written in stone, we are getting a very good grasp of how this category and many other categories in that case are starting to shape themselves in the upcoming years. So if you found this helpful, if you think that maybe you want to have a deeper conversation, we are super open to that. Down there, you have an email. You can reach Claudia. She's going to be super happy to guide you through any type of process or meeting or whatever, book some time so we can reconvene and talk. If you have any questions, shoot them in an email. We will reach you as well. And overall, if you're interested in even more of this type of content, give us a like, subscribe and that kind of stuff. You can reach the Culture Forward website. There are some other reports in there, and we will keep doing these webinars with a certain periodicity. I can't with that word. Periodicidad is in Spanish. So, yeah, good to see you all. Thank you for joining. Have a great rest of the week and have a good one. Bye bye.